everyone, I'm Melanie with Painting Crafty, and tonight's tutorial is going to be about this sweet little sleeping kitten. I'm going to show you the drawing steps. I'm going to break it down into some simple shapes so it makes it easy to follow along, and then I'll show you the watercolor steps after that. So those of you who might be interested in having a little bit of help to draw, you could always go over to my Ko-fi page. That's where I have a sketchbook membership, and that's where I have all of the tracers for all the drawings that I do on YouTube. I also include a sample of the one I drew, so you'll have a reference to be able to draw from and create your watercolors with if you would like. Now let's start with the drawing steps. So I'm going to switch the camera so you can have big picture, little me. So let's take a look at some of the simple shapes that we are going to use to create the chair. That's why we're going to start first. So when we create the chair, we want to think about that this is a horseshoe shape here. So you want to go ahead and check where you are, the size of paper that you're going to be drawing on, where you would like the top of your chair to be, the back. You're going to need some room at the top to be able to include your kitten. And then look here at the bottom of where you would want your chair. Now on my original drawing, I included such things as like a rug, a floor line there. So you want to keep those in mind too. If you want to add a rug, leave some room there. So you're going to take a look first of how big and how tall you want your chair. Once you've decided that, you're going to start with the bottom line here for your chair, your base, and then you're going to create this horseshoe shape. It's going to start coming out up to the top of wherever you drew your top line, and then you're going to gradually come back in. And there we have the base of our chair started. Next, we're going to work on the arms of our chair. So these are a simple circle shape. I'm going to come up a little bit higher. This would be like the top of where your arms of your chair would going to be. I'm going to be half on my chair, half off. So I'm just going to draw a circle about the size of a quarter or a nickel is what I drew mine. I'm going to just draw lightly so I have an idea of where my top of my circle is, where I drew here. And I want to repeat another circle, similar shape. Okay, erase whatever might be in here because we're going to be putting our buttons. So we have the back, we have our arms on. Let's draw this part of our chair next, the seat of our chair. So I'm going to start at the top of my circle. I'm going to follow it around and curve it down. So I'm going to come over here, follow it around, curve it here. This will be the bottom of the cushion area of where our cushion is going to set. So now we have the base of our seat down. Let's put in a cushion. We're going to put it right here. Now this is where you can add some sort of pattern to your cushion. I just did a simple little line pattern on mine, but you can add whatever you would like. So we have that part down. Now if you want to make your chair a little bit more stylized, this has got more of just a general hoop. You could bring your chair in. So follow this line here, but then make it in a little bit off to the side, and you're going to curve it in a little bit. Give it kind of a waistline if you think of it that way. So now you change the look of your chair just by bringing it in ever so slightly and giving it that waistline. Now let's take a look at some feet. Now for the feet on my chair, I have them a little off to the side. They are kind of like an upside down triangle with the tops cut off. So if I look here, I'm going to do that triangle shape, but I'm going to make it a flat bottom instead of being a point. And there we go. So we just want to make sure they're kind of the same length on each side. Take a look at how you draw them. You might have to take a double check to make sure you drew them similar. Now let's work on the cat on the top, the kitten, the sleeping kitten. I'm going to make my picture small. Let's do it where we're just so you can see both. There, we got it. Now let's take a look at our kitten. If we take a look here, our kitten's back is arched over. We're about the same as the top of our chair. We're going to come all the way over. This is going to make that arch is going to make his little paw on that side. So I'm going to start here on the side of my chair at the top. He's going to be, I'm going to start right here. We're going to come up. We're going to arch it up. This would be like his hip right here. This is his back. We're going to come over. Now we're going to start coming down because this was going to be his front or his back paw that we're going to see. And there's his little paw. Now let's put his tail on. Now his tail is just a J shape that comes up to the top here. So we're going to come down. Let's make a little J. Hook it around, and then we're going to stop right there. Now we're going to put this back leg on, so we're going to come across, make a little U-shaped back, and then a tiny bit of a hip. So we're going to come up here at our tail. We don't want to get up too high, much higher than our chair. So we're going to come around. This will be his foot, and then make that U shape, and there's his hip. Now we're going to make his front paw. We're going to come a little lower than the back of our chair. We're going to come a lower, just going to still follow the same shape as the back of our chair. We're going to come down with his paw. It's going to be shorter than the front paw. And there's his front paw. Now let's pop in the face, and once we get the head on, that's going to make it look more like a kitten. So we're going to start with a U shape. We're going to go at an angle with our U, so part of it's going to be underneath that paw. And then we're going to come up here. That'll give just our kitten a look like he's sleeping. Now if you want to, erase this part right here so it cleans it up so you get a better idea of what you got drawn there. Then let's put in the kitten ears, and those are going to be little triangles off to the side, and then the center of his head. And there we have his head. The one thing about keeping in mind when you're doing the kitten is that the size of the head needs to be appropriate to the body. If we get too big, it's going to look like a lion. So let's go ahead and give him some sleeping eyes, which are little smile faces. And then his nose is an upside down triangle. And just a simple mouth little area that's just a little simple line that comes down, and it's going to be hiding behind his paw. So there's this little sweet face that's on there. Now you're going to erase whatever's inside of your kitten that's not part of the body. And there we have his shape. So to do the little paws, we just need to add a little lines for our paws. And then we have his feet done. Okay, so take a look at your kitten. Does it make sense? Does he look like a kitten? Do you need to make him a little fatter? Does he need to have a fatter body? So just take a little bit of look at it, back up from your picture, and take a look of what your cat looks like. So we've got the main parts of our chair drawn, our cat drawn. You can add as many details as you like with yours. I added a little bit of some extra lines inside of my chair. I added a pillow on there. For my whole room, I ended up adding a dresser or a little side table with a plant, add a little sign, and then I put that little rug that's underneath there too. So I have lots of little details. You can add as many details as you would like to bring your picture to life as well. This would be really cute with a lamp or something off to the side. So here it is in colors. So let's go ahead and start the process of doing the watercolor. So this is my palette that I'm working in today with some of the blues, the oranges, the turquoise, the greens. So that is what I'm setting up for my color palette. And I'm going to start with my chair first. And what I'm going to do is a wet on wet blend. That means I'm going to get my paper wet first, and then I'm going to put my watercolor in there. So I'm going to start here with the center part of my chair. I'm just going to put some water on there. Now watercolor wants to travel wherever your paper is wet. So if I don't want to get any of that blue color into those other areas, I want to keep that part dry where I don't want the color. And then wherever the water is, that's where the color is going to flow. This is a beautiful shade of turquoisey blue. And I mix my own color by using kind of a bright blue and then adding kind of a greenish blue in there to mix my color. Now when I did this area, I wanted to make sure I left some white areas so that those would be my brightest whites. With watercolor, you can't get your whites back once you cover them up. So it's important to try to leave a little bit of the white of your paper showing and not cover all those areas up. So I want to make sure I'm going around my little cat tail so I don't end up with a blue kitten. And this is just my plain water. I do have a little bit of tint in it. I wanted to be able to show you where I'm putting my water. With watercolor, it's a great idea to have one dish of clean water and then one dish to wash your brushes out in. That way you always have a clean brush that you're dipping your color from one color to the next in. Because my paper is wet, my color is going to flow right inside of that wet area. Okay, I'm going to try to leave some of the white areas in there. Now you don't have to worry about being exact. It's super hard to be exact. You just want to kind of put we're not creating a color book, so we're just layering in our colors as we're working around our picture. So let's take up a little bit more wet of the water, and we'll get this area wet too. And I'm just going to continue on with the blue parts of my chair. I'm going to speed this video up and you can watch as I continue on painting. I'm going to put a layer of this on, and then I'll be adding a little bit darker color as well. That's a very pretty shade of turquoise. Now let's work a little bit on this area here. We're going to give time for this to rest, the teal, so we don't work into those other areas. We're going to give it a good chance to dry. And we're going to start over here on here. So I'm going to water down a little bit of this blue, more water than pigment. So definitely ink consistency, or if not, slightly lighter. The more water you have in your paint, the lighter your paint will be. The more pigment you have in there, it will be darker. The blanket area I just worked on, I put my paint on dry, the dry paper, and then I added the color on top of that. That will just allow me a little bit more control when I was working next to my cat, so that I wouldn't get any of that green color inside of my kitten. When working with watercolor, you do need to make sure you have your contrast, your darks, your mediums, and your lights. So you start light, then lay a medium, and then put your darkest color in, and layer your colors that way. You don't want to cover up everything you just put on. You still want to see some of those areas because those are your highlights. And we're basically painting the shadows when we're painting watercolor. Pick up a little bit of this yellow and lay that inside of there. Let's add a little bit of sunshine to that home sweet home sign. I'm going to be doing a little pen and ink work at the end, so I'll be copying over my letters and adding some darker quality to those. Let's work a little bit on our cat. I'm going to be mixing some soft browns and make kind of an orangish gold cat. So I'm going to be working in this color family here is what I'm going to be working with. I'm going to be starting with a little bit of this yellow ochre color. I'm going to add more water, less pigment, start light, and then work my way dark. So I'm going to come in and just lay this color on my kitty. Now remember, your watercolor is going to dry slightly lighter. I'm going to try to leave some open white areas so I'm not covering in her right away, everything color. Okay, so while she's still wet, I'm going to pick up a little bit more of this brown color here, and I'm going to be laying in some of that color. So I'm going to be creating a little bit of a shadow by creating a wet on wet blend on her. Now that would be the front paw, so it would be lighter than this back one. Here would be darker. Go around her little nose. I'm going to be making that kind of a little bit of a peach color on her. Okay, let's pick up a little bit more rust color, a little kind of more of a reddish brown. I'm going to be adding less water this time because I'm going to be adding stripes onto my kitty. So I'm going to be building that little bit of a tiger cat look. I'm going to go in with even a darker brown, less red, more of a earthy kind of a brown, darker one. I'm going to give this a tap, and then I'm going to come in here and just tap just the tiniest bit of that color variation on my little tiger stripes, just to give it a little bit more depth into my little cat. Let's let that dry and see where we are with the colorations. Now you can rinse your brush off, give it a squeeze so you don't have too much water in there. And if you need to soften some of those lines because they're getting a little too hard, you can kind of push and pull those areas and soften the color out just a tiny bit. I'm going to be doing some pen and ink work there, so I'm going to be adding a little bit more detail to my cat that way. Let's add a little bit of a floor line down here at the bottom. I'm going to be taking some of that light color here that I used on my side table, and I'm going to be watering that color down, and then I'm going to come in this way horizontally and add a little bit of an indication of that a floor is underneath my rug. A little bit of extra detail in my background. I'm going to be creating a stripe for a pattern to make it look like a wallpaper. I'm going to come back in, use the same color that I used on my chair, but I'm going to definitely want to water it down very loosely. Give it a lot of water. If you want to test what your stripes are going to be or your pattern first, before you put it on your paper, take a piece of scrap paper and then test it to see if you like it. I'm thinking I'm fine with that. Now to do this stripe, I'm going to want to make sure my hand is planted on the table so I'm not like floating up high to be able to pull a straight stripe. I'm going to come up here and I'm going to set my hand down on the table. I'm going to have my point of my brush down and I'm going to lightly touch, and then I'm going to drag my hand towards me. I'm not going to lift it up off the table. So I'm going to drag it towards me. If I run into something, pull it up, come down, and then touch again. So by keeping my hand planted down, I'm going to be able to pull a straighter line. Now all that's left is a little bit of pen work. So today I'm going to be using my Micron pens. I'm going to be using a 01 for the line work, and then I'm going to come in with a little bit of the Uniball Signo white ink pen as well. It's a great white to use. So I'm going to start my process. I like to use very loose lines, so I'm going to hold my pen loosely and create more of a sketch line quality to my drawing. So I'm not worried about exactly following every line that I put on, and I may not even go over all of my lines. Now let's pick up a little bit of the white pen and let's add a little bit of work with this white pen. Well, that's super sweet. I think it turned out really cute. If I hold it up here so you can kind of see more of the texture and the detail. It turned out so sweet. I love it. Well, that is it for the tutorial for tonight. And if you found that you found it helpful or interesting to drawing and to build your drawing and your watercolor skills, why don't you consider subscribing? And if you once you subscribe, if you hit the bell, then YouTube will send you a notification that anytime I put up something new, they'll let you know. What a great service that it is to be able to get a notification. They'll just send you an email or pop it up on your phone that there's something to watch. So that is it for now, my friends. And every time you do them, they turn out slightly different. And if you do one and you would like to share it, you can pop on my Facebook page, Painting Crafty. And over there, you'll see a picture of this and you can just put it underneath there. I love to share other people's work because it doesn't have to look like mine to be good. And you all have different ideas and different versions. And I love sharing your things because I think you encourage others to try as well. Well, thank you for coming and hanging out with me. And hopefully you'll come back and see me again.